Tonight, I'll be bringing you insight into what a possible coup situation would have been, not only for West Africa, but for Nigeria. We've seen this happen over a time and again in West Africa, on the African continent, a growing trend and love for coup within the military ranks in these countries, and what these mean, the jeopardy it might have for democracy and its development in Africa. Now, there is, in the security landscape, there is a growing and evolving and renewed concerns over rising banditry and communal violence and cross-border threats spreading across parts of the Nigerian north. It was against this backdrop that northern governors and three traditional rulers convened a high-level security meeting in Kaduna State. They were seeking stronger regional collaboration and a unified strategy to confront the deepening challenges. The gathering, which brought together political leaders, monarchs, and security experts, reviewed intelligence reports, assessed the growing impact of armed groups, and agreed on fresh measures aimed at strengthening community-based security, intelligence sharing, and joint operations across state lines. This discussion is also touched on attempted coup. Our conversation tonight will be touching on attempted coup in neighboring Benin Republic and what the ripple effect could mean for regional stability, especially for Nigeria's northwest corridor and the broader ECOWAS space. Added to these were concerns over recent diplomatic tensions with the United States following allegations of religiously targeted killings, claims Nigerian authorities instead are politically motivated and not backed by evidence. Our conversation will be in two parts. First part will be with the governor of Nasarawa State, Engineer Abdullahi Sule, to unpack some of these resolutions they made in Kaduna. Then I'll be speaking with a pioneer director of media operations at the Defense Headquarters, Major General John Enesha, will be joining me on the program also. Let me speak with Governor Abdullahi Sule, who is live for us from the capital of Nasarawa State in Lafia. Governor Sule, thank you so much indeed for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Shaun. Thank you so much for having me.
First and foremost, I think we should begin our conversation with, and I think that I know that governors in parts of Nigeria have come together to say it's a good thing to have women participate more in politics. But I've made it a business of mine within the next few days until the voting happens in the National Assembly that we get the buy-in and the commitment of political leaders and leadership in this country on how that voting will go. And I'm talking about the special seats for women in the National Assembly. I'm guessing that you are also a governor for women.
Well, at the last meeting of the Nigerian Governors Forum, not even the progressive or northern governors, the entire Nigerian Governors Forum meeting that we had in Abuja, it was one of the items in our communique. The governors unanimously support the bill, that is promoting the participation of women and giving women special consideration, giving women special seats. When you say I'm governor for women, a lot of people may not understand. During my administration is one actually for the first time, we have a vice chancellor of our state university being a woman. We have the CJ for the first time being a woman in the state. We have also a woman being the rector of the Polytechnic, that for State Polytechnic. And then we have women actually holding some of the key positions in the state, so there that we have, human capital development, and so many of them. In fact, in the House of Assembly, Nasarawa is one of the houses of assembly that has a woman, in the house. So I also did something, which we didn't have before. And at all our the local government elections, we ensured that for every local government there are women councillors, in it. So we already started in Nasarawa State, that this is a position of all the governors at the last governors meeting, that women, we should support that bill, and we should go ahead.
So, perhaps what some of you, especially as a leader, a governor, will be doing is also to be speaking with Nasarawa lawmakers representing in the National Assembly to say they need to also look in the way of voting in that direction. Is this something they are willing to do?
Yeah, well, definitely. I think that's the whole idea of the governors coming together to support the bill. When we say the governors support the bill, that means the governors also will talk to other stakeholders, in the state, including the members of the National Assembly, members of the State Assembly, and others, who have some influence.
Your Excellency, these are not a good time when military and soldiers are now thirsty for takeover, and we've seen this happening. It's becoming a trend now, and it's also part of the security concerns that is growing not only in Nigeria but across the region. And the reason why some of you and your colleagues met in Kaduna. But what would you say is a major outcome of that meeting and then Nigerians should be looking forward to implementation?
I think the meeting in Kaduna were able to achieve at least 4 major things that we were not achieving in the past. One is that we took a decision that instead of continuously looking forward to the federal government, to come to the rescue and do 1 or 2 things for that, we say, you know what, we have to take it upon ourselves to see that we continue to support this security. Apart from what we usually do in the state, we have to come collectively and do something. And that is when we took the decision that every state of the 19 states will be contributing 1 billion naira every month for the next 12 months. That is 19 billion every month until we are able to achieve that. And we are going to introduce technology in whatever we are doing. We are going to hire our own more vigilante, get them more trained, get the equipment, get the logistics, and all it takes. Now, in addition to that, we came up again with another option, the issue of what is the cause of most of these problems is mining. So since mining is under the federation, the federal government, we say we are asking Mr. President to instruct that mining activities, as a whole, shall be halted until we are able to verify, which ones are authentic. The reason why we said that is a lot of these mining licenses that are given, some of them are just exploration.
Oh, yeah. The network there is
exploration license. Yeah. People go ahead and start mining straight away, and then that's where illegal mining comes in. So that is the reason why we also introduced that. And finally, we were able to even have a DG and then the management of the Northern Governors Forum. So we also were in the country, who is well known for that. That is Ezekiel Gomez, so we employed him, who is going to put together a team that will be driving most of this work that we are doing. So those are the kinds of decisions that we have taken. So rather than just looking forward to the federal government, we said, no, we have to collectively take a decision and start looking at these things as other meetings we have had.
But this mining, what is the relationship with mining and this insecurity in northern Nigeria?
You see, because mining is an economic thing for them. Due to the economic challenges in the country, people find it easier to make money from mining sites, especially when they have not invested anything. That's why they call it illegal mining. So people just think that since they have the opportunity of having these minerals in their backyard, they can just go and get some equipment, here and start digging, and they will be able to get lead, zinc, precious metals, and all what have you, including lithium and the rest of that, and people sell them. In the process of a rush for that, that is where you now have a lot of criminals that go and hide under that, and then go and start committing all kinds of crimes. And in Nasarawa State, we have so many of them. That's the reason why we came up with that idea, with that bill, that whoever is processed with mining in Nasarawa State should also be processing also in Nasarawa State. Those are the kinds of things that we have done. But, it is not the same in every part of the the country. The governor of Zamfara mentioned that one of the most difficult areas to go is the area where there is gold mining, and there are all kinds of speculations, about those sites where they see helicopters coming to the site from only God knows where, and those kind of things. But, the moment we say there is all these licenses are going to be drawn, then we can now take a decision to say that we can send some kind of technology in those kind of areas, because today you have all this equipment that can carry bomb to go and bomb a particular place that are not manned whatsoever. So at the moment somebody has a license, legitimate license, you can go and start bombing them and doing those kind of things. So that's the idea. Mining site is usually a criminal site. That's in most cases. When I say mining site, I mean illegal mining sites.
But I mean, there are those who are asking questions. Who are these people? Because if you have identified it as leaders in northern Nigeria, Governor Sule, let me tell you what people are saying on the street. They think that their leaders in northern Nigeria, as well as in some part of the country, have failed them. The insecurity they were saying, they're seeing it as a systemic failure over the years, and how leaders have consistently use poverty and lack of governance, and which has fueled this insecurity. And are those who think, who are those behind this? Why is it difficult to name names? Why is it difficult to be able to prosecute these people? In the real sense of it, has it been communicated to the president? How do you hope to ensure the implementation of some of these positions that you have? Interestingly, the traditional rulers who are closer to the grassroots governance are there within that meeting. And the governors, if they're coming forward to say, this is a problem of our region, that means we have some kind of solution, isn't it?
Foremost, you can't stop people from saying what they want to say on the streets. And when you are running a government, you just have to take a decision and do what you believe very strongly is good for your own people, irrespective of what people say. You can't run a government just based on what people say on the streets. People will always talk on the streets, so that shouldn't be part of what you have to say. But you have to look at the realities on ground and take that decision. There is no ambiguity whatsoever. It is indeed a fact that most of these mining sites, you have people that are in Nigeria to come to mining sites. Nobody can actually argue that, irrespective of what anybody says. So they have licenses, and the licenses they are given those licenses by the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals. So we are saying we withdraw those licenses, because right now, all it takes for you to have a license is to go to your community and have the so-called consent letter. If you have a consent letter, that's a requirement, to go and get an exploration license. And most of those licenses are exploration licenses. They are not even mining licenses. But because it is very difficult for the ministry to come and monitor whether somebody is exploring or somebody is mining, So you have so many people who have only exploration license, and they are trying to do. So we say, no, let us engage. Let the federal government and the state government, in this case, verify those licenses, and we can identify. Something I shown, a good example will be if somebody says, stop all mining, because I had somebody who says, the governor says, stop all mining activities. I said, the person doesn't even know what they are talking about. Because if you stop that, take Benue, for instance. Benue has a cement plant. The cement plant has a quarry. From that quarry, you have to mine. You mine the limestone before you bring it to the plant to do. So we can't say, for instance, stop mining of that, because that's a legitimate business that is running. And you have all of them in the country. And that's the reason why today you don't import cement. Every one of these cement plants, whether it is Ashaka or Bajana or Ibeshe, or every one of them, has mining sites. So those are not the ones we are talking about.
Sule, Governor Sule, please give me a moment. So some good news, cherry news, some breaking news that we are following right here. We've gotten exclusively on China's television. Breaking news right for you right now. Federal government has secured the release of abducted 100 school children abducted in their school at the St. Mary's Catholic School in Papiri, Niger State. Breaking news, the federal government has secured, and security operatives have now secured the release of 100 Out of the over 300 or so school children abducted in their school at the St. Mary's Secondary School in Papiri, Niger State. The school attack happened earlier this month, leaving parents and Nigerians at large wondering the release and when the return of these school kids will be. So, but we can break for you right here, right now on Channels Television, exclusive. Niger school kids, 100 of them have now been released safely, and more development in that regard will be happening. And the details of how that has happened, cherry news for those who have been expecting these school kids to come home. 100 of them have now been released by security operatives. Governor Sule, cherry news. 100 of these, almost 300 or so kids have now been released. What do you make of that? It's part of your conversation in Kaduna. The security agencies have done their job in this regard and hoping that more of these kids will come home.
Yeah, first I congratulate Mr. President. Since federal government played a key role in this release, I congratulate my dear younger brother, the governor of Niger, and indeed all the parents of these kids. So this indeed is a cheering news, like you had the breaking news. It is a cheering news that we are able to do that. Which means outside whatever people are saying on the streets, there are people who are working day and night to ensure that something happens, because the whole essence of government is to make life easy for other people, to provide security for them, and provide welfare for the people, to make sure that people are free to move wherever they have to move. So government is working and the security agencies are working, but it is not everything that you come and tell, disclose it, in the air that definitely this is what is happening, this is that. So by the grace of God, the others also will be released, and then this will come to an end. But apart from the release, is to make sure that we don't even allow the children to be kidnapped, and I think that's what we are working on. So we are working on avoiding the kidnap in the first place, not just even working on trying to release those that have been kidnapped. So I think it's cheering news, exactly like what you said, and I congratulate all those that deserve to be congratulated on this cheering news.
Well, Governor Sule, I mean, as a leader in northern Nigeria, and those of us who are from that region of the country are worried about how northern Nigeria has become the theater of everything absorbed in terms of security. Abductions, kidnapping, unsafe school situation. If you look at all of these violent activities, terrorist activities, most of it are happening in northern Nigeria. It calls for something, a major intervention, which should worry every leader in northern Nigeria. Does this perplex or does it worry you, some of you who are leaders in northern Nigeria, that this should not be happening in a region that is so blessed, that is capable of blessing the nation, than becoming more of a concern and worry to the entire country?
It is usually very forgetful for us in this part of the world. We usually forget things very, very easy, and we are very fast, actually very quick in pointing, accusing fingers at others. This, like you said, is something that borders every governor that you can think of. You needed to see the stress at that meeting, the tension during the meeting, as far as the issues of this insecurity is concerned. Sometimes people raise their voices, because people are angry, people are worried, people are thinking that we are not doing enough. We are accusing ourselves that we are not doing enough. Why should we do enough? What must be done? This and that. That's the kind of meeting we had. So if people are not worried, we can't be talking like that to each other. Now, when you said, kidnapping is northern Nigeria, this and that, let me remind you, and I'm sure you know that I'm an oil and gas person. If you go back to anywhere between 2003, 2004, all the way to around 2009 in this country, no kidnapping was taking place in northern Nigeria, but kidnapping was taking place in all the oil regions. And I remember I was actually a beneficiary, because a company called Tetra Tech, got their workers, it's a company out of Houston, got their workers kidnapped, and one of them, in fact, killed. And they made up their mind that they were not going to come back to Nigeria. So they asked me, to be a consultant for them. That's how I ended up working in Port Harcourt and Trans-Amadi. because they had a lot of investments at One, and they had a lot of investments. So I had to go and work for them. And that time, most of the oil workers were being kidnapped. It was a daily activity in the oil region. So kidnapping then was a foreign thing to northern Nigeria, but it was mostly economic kidnapping, because they will kidnap some of the people, and then a lot of them, in most cases, they will kidnap the oil workers, and the oil companies will pay. So it was until, I think, during the Jonathan's administration, it started easing out between 2009 until 2011, and all these contracts were being entered into all of these people, and the issue of resource control and the rest of that. So now kidnapping came back to northern Nigeria. Okay, so this is what is happening, and it will come to an end. But it is not like, at the time it was happening here, people from northern Nigeria were thinking it's not our problem. It's a problem on the oil region. It's and that. And they say, no, it is not the case, because it's in Nigeria. So this one also shall come to pass, because it was mostly, if you look at it, mostly in the northeast, where Boko Haram was doing this, was doing that. Sometimes they would just kidnap people, children, to use them as shield against attacks and things like that. That's where the children in Goza were actually kidnapped, and the rest of that. So it was also a foreign thing to the northwest. So now it moved to the northwest and to the north central. So you have to go through, but it is not something like the leaders are careless. The leaders, most of the time, I get calls in the morning, to say that everything was okay yesterday from the security agencies, or something happened last night when we are doing this and we got them released. Also, those are the kinds of things you go through every day as a leader. So anybody who says leaders don't care, or leaders are not doing enough, or leaders are not doing that, is actually doesn't either understand or just being mischievous. Because the northern leaders are doing their best, the federal government is doing their best, and now we are saying we can even do more than what we have been doing. And that's the idea. That was the whole essence of the meeting that we had in Kaduna.
Governor Abdullahi Sule, many thanks tonight for your time. But then, before you go, this expressway, I understand the insider information that you secured the federal government's permission to construct that road. For anyone living in some of the satellite towns to Abuja, who are living in Nyanya, Maraba, and that axis, it's about, if I'm not wrong, over 50 kilometers of stretch of roads, which is massive. If that corridor is secured from all of these bottlenecks of traffic and all of that, it will be a very big deal for those who live in that corridor, because Nyanya Maraba has suddenly become an Abuja territory. But what more do we know? Are workers going on site? Are the contractors going on site? We understand that you've secured the federal government permission to construct that road, even with flyovers.
Yeah, well, it's one of the roads, like you mentioned. In fact, if there is any traffic in Nigeria, I don't think there is anywhere where you have that kind of traffic. I live in Lagos, and the Third Mainland Bridge, Apapa, used to be one of the worst traffics. But believe me, living Abuja sometimes, especially on Fridays, I live in Abuja. The moment is 4 o'clock. You are leaving Abuja to go back to Nasarawa State. That stretch, you can actually spend 3-4 hours sometimes. So we've been looking for two things. Number one is a federal government road. In order for us to go and start working on that road, we needed the permission of the federal government. Number two, more importantly, we needed the money. So because it's a lot of money actually to have the stretch of what we are trying to do. So in order to make it useful, there was no need for us to go and just have a flyover and then move to the next side and have another flyover. It won't solve the problem. Maybe it will just take about 10-15% of the problem, and then you are back to it. So the design that we have, and I participated in actually creating the concept of that design, was that the moment you leave Nyanya and you are entering into that, you start a new flyover with a roundabout under the Abacha road, for those who understand that road. And then you are not going to come down completely from the flyover. You are just going to come down a little bit and now go on a race highway. So that race highway is what you will continue now until you get to another side at the center of Nasarawa, going to the technology village. So at that moment, you have another flyover. and then it will come down to another race highway. So it's going to be roughly over 2.6 kilometers. That's what we had. Now we thank God we have the resources, we have the federal government approval, so that's why we did the groundbreaking. And every time I have that, when I mention to people that, well, it's the economic reform at the federal level that put more money in our pockets that gave us this. And I say, thank you, Mr. President, actually, for the reforms. A lot of people don't misunderstand it, thinking that, well, you are just trying to be psychophone or something. No, you are just trying to be realistic by saying that if not for that money, there is no way a state like Nasarawa will jump up and say that we are coughing out. For instance, just the deposit of that road was 19 point something billion, just the deposit for the road. And we paid that on Thursday last week before we did the Friday work. So that's where we are.
What was the total amount that project will go up, and how long will it take?
It's roughly about 40 billion, but for us in Nasarawa, we try as much as possible to avoid variation. And that's the reason why I usually pay at least 50% of the money to the contractors with an agreement that there will be no variation. Because, sometimes variation alone can be as high as 20, 30, 40% of the work. But I say Nasarawa is not that rich that we can be seeing that variation.
But how long do you think that it will take for the contractors to conclude work on it?
The contractor is asking for 16 to 18 months, but we are working on the contractor to say that every little time you need payment, we'll give you payment to ensure that you finish this work anywhere between 12 to 14 months. Yeah.
Governor Abdullahi Sule, Nasarawa State Governor, thank you so much indeed. Anyone who knows that corridor knows that majority of those who work in Abuja who live in satellite towns live around that axis, Maraba Yanya axis, and stretch up until the capital of Nasarawa State in Lafayette. But thanks so much indeed for your time, Governor Abdullahi.
There will be a toll gate, but it is only Sheun when he's coming, he will pay the toll gate. Everybody else is free.
I'll try to bypass it and use another road. Let the poor breathe. The president said it. Some of us who don't have the money, let us breathe. Thank you so much indeed, Governor Sule.
Thank you so much.